guys, welcome back. It's Friday. Yes, we made it through another week. Hallelujah. Do you know what I like to do on Fridays? I like to play games, both with students and with my family Friday night after supper. So I have a little game for you today. Well, it's kind of a learning game. Well, it's kind of a lecture that I just call a game when I present it to my kids. But I feel like if I call it a lecture, then everybody's sad. But if I say, hey, let's play a game, then everybody's like, yeah. So let's see what you think. Game, lecture, you decide. All right, my goal today is to make sure that your academic research does not blow up in your face. So I'm going to teach you all about how to sidestep the dangers of plagiarism. All right, so teachers often warn you not to plagiarize, and we go over MLA formatting to help you know how to do your citations. In fact, I went over that a few weeks back, so go back in time and look at those videos, links below in the description bar. But first, we need to describe what is this plagiarism menace? And then I'll teach you how to avoid it. So basically, plagiarism is taking someone else's work or ideas and passing them off as your own. You are taking credit for work that you didn't do, and that is never a cool thing. It's really academic theft, and it doesn't matter if what your intent was. It doesn't matter if you meant to do it, you were trying to be sneaky, or if you were just sloppy with your citations. The end result is in that paper, it looks like you're presenting stuff as though you created that idea or you did that research when in fact you were not the source of that. There can be lots of heavy consequences for you depending on your school. It could be anything from a 0 on that major paper to getting kicked out of the school altogether. And it also is really... it's a black mark against your reputation. You don't want to be that kid. And when you get into professional world, you don't want to be that grown up. Adults have lost their very influential positions, like in journalism and new media, because they presented work as though it was their own when it wasn't. So how do you avoid this? You just take care of your citations. And again, I'm going to use the MLA format here in this presentation, and I've covered it in previous videos. So if you're not sure about like the how to do it, you want to make sure you know, otherwise, kaboom, you got a huge problem on your hands. All right, we're going to jump in and we're going to play a game. Now, as we play, you can jot down your answers just on a scrap piece of paper, just quiz yourself, or you can leave your answers in the comment section below and then post them at the end of the game, just so everybody else can see your path. Your choice, however you want. Here we go. All right, first up, let's say that 3 different students wanted to use this passage information from the Steve Jobs biography by Walter Isaacson. It is a fantastic read. It is a weighty tome. It's a big old brick of a book. But if you're interested in Jobs and the founding of Apple, it's definitely a fascinating read. All right, but I'm going to read this very short paragraph to you from Isaacson's book. And then we're going to talk about how 3 different students handled presenting this information. Okay. Steve Jobs, and I'm going to read it to you just because I know some of you are on small screens. I know you can read. If you just want to hit pause and skip over this, that's fine. But if you can't see it because if it's a small screen, I'm going to read it to you. Here we go. Steve Jobs knew from an early age that he was adopted. My parents were very open with me about that, he recalled. He had a vivid memory of sitting on the lawn of his house when he was 6 or 7 years old, telling the girl who lived across the street. So does that mean your real parents didn't want you? The girl asked. Lightning bolts went off in my head, according to Jobs. I remember running into the house, crying, and my parents said, no, you have to understand. They were very serious and looked me straight in the eye, and they said, we specifically picked you out. Both of my parents said that and repeated it slowly for me, and they put an emphasis on this, on every word in that sentence. Abandoned, chosen, special. Those concepts became part of who Jobs was and how he regarded himself. His closest friends think that the knowledge that he was given up at birth left some scars. I think his desire for complete control of whatever he makes derives directly from his personality and the fact that he was abandoned at birth, said one longtime colleague, Del Yoakum. And then it goes on. If you read the book, you find out Jobs actually does not think that his drive was colored by the fact that he was adopted, but it certainly is an interesting note about the man. All right, so let's say these 3 kids, Amy, Becky, and Carla, all are writing, they're doing I don't know, some kind of like research paper on Steve Jobs, and they're using Isaacson's book as their source material. Which student or students, there can be more than one, committed plagiarism here? So in Amy's paper, she writes, Jobs' knowledge that he was given up at birth left some scars, his friends agreed. Or Becky, Isaacson reports that several people close to Steve Jobs believed that the fact that, quote, he was given up at birth left some scars. There's a page number. Or Carla, Dale Yoakum, a man who worked with Dale Yoakum, a man who worked for many years with Steve Jobs, believes that part of Jobs' need to control all facets of his work was connected to the fact that he was adopted Isaacson for. All right, who's in trouble? Yeah, it's Amy. Basically, Amy, she doesn't so she gives a sentence. The knowledge that he was given up at birth left some scars, his friends agreed. But it almost sounds like she interviewed his friends. Like she doesn't say where that information come from. She certainly doesn't give a nod to Isaacson, which you need to do here. And so it's not okay for Amy to just say that, oh yeah, his friends agreed. According to whom? Like, where did you get that? So in this format, she's basically stolen from Isaacson, and she would bomb the essay because she has, stepped on a landmine of plagiarism. All right, let's try another one. There are 3 new students who want to use a little bit of this passage of Susan Logan McCracken's article from Capster magazine. So on page 39, it's an adorable article full of kitty cat facts. I'm going to zoom in here for fact number 6, which is certainly interesting. A thing about kittens. Their sense of hearing is one of the best on the planet. Except for bats and moths, cats have the best hearing of all land animals. They are born deaf, but when their amazing sense of hearing is fully developed by 4 weeks of age, they can hear 65,000 cycles per second or hertz, whereas we hear only 20,000. So they are supersonic hearers right away. All right, looking at these student entries on their papers, which ones commit plagiarism? Daniel says, a kitten's ability to hear is fully developed by the time the animal is 4 weeks old. And he has Logan McCracken, page 39. Or Eddie, a typical cat's hearing is more than 3 times better than the average human's hearing, scientists report. And Franklin wrote, cats are incredibly focused animals. Aside from moths and bats, a cat's hearing is said to be the best among all other animals on the planet. All right, who's guilty of plagiarism this time? Boom! I'm hoping that you saw too. Both Eddie and Franklin ended up in trouble here. Let's talk about why. Well, basically, they just didn't attribute where they got the information. Those facts that both Eddie and Franklin give are not, common knowledge. They are special to that article that came from Logan McCracken. All you needed was that simple attributive tag. And Eddie there saying, scientists report, is unbelievably vague and not seen as, academically reliable. You just can't say studies say, like when you're talking with someone like, well, I read a study. Really? What study did you read? Cite that source. I often say that to folks. Oh yeah, cite the source. Because otherwise people just sound like they're making stuff up. All right, next up. Let me give you this scenario. Maybe you face something similar. Gina was assigned an essay on the Great Depression, but last year she actually had a similar assignment, but in a different class. She takes her old essay, updates the intro paragraph, changes a few body paragraph sentences, and then turns it into this year's teacher. Did Gina commit plagiarism? What say you? Yes or no? She did. She did. I know this is going to get you, but you can certainly give yourself permission to reuse your own previous work, right? You own it. It's your work. But plagiarism isn't just about copying someone else's ideas. It's about claiming to do work that you haven't done. And by recycling that old essay and presenting it to this year's teacher as fresh work, you are committing a type of plagiarism. Ba-boom. We actually refer to it as academic double dipping. It's really bad practice. So the way to work around this is just ask this year's teacher if that's okay. Right? Just be upfront. Hey, I already covered this topic in last year's history class. Would it be okay if I revisited my old paper, updated it, and then submitted it to you? You never know. Some professors will say yes, some will say no. It really just depends on what the purpose of the paper is. Is it to prove that you know how to do citations? That's probably fine. Is it for you to actually learn a new topic by doing the research yourself? Because part of research papers is not just the writing of the paper, but the big part is you learning by doing all that great research. So then for me, the answer would be no. Pick a new topic. All right. Next question, and actually the last for today. These lines were taken from students' papers. I would like to know which of them, I say, contains plagiarized content. Helen writes, U.S. former President Barack Obama served 2 terms, holding office from 2009 to 2016. Iris writes, U.S. President Ronald Reagan, again, U.S. former President, sorry, let me start over. U.S. President Ronald Reagan worked many years as a Hollywood actor before entering politics. And Julia writes, U.S. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt held the office from 1933 to 1945, helping to pull Americans out of the Great Depression. All right. Who among them has plagiarized? Oh, boom! I ended with a trick question. Actually, none of these would be considered plagiarism because each student's sentence is actually just considered generally accepted fact here in the US. Things that are common knowledge. Shakespeare wrote Hamlet. I don't know. Water is wet. I don't know. It's just Randazzo is awkward. You don't need to cite those things. They are just common knowledge. I say if you see the same fact repeated in multiple sources, then it's likely that the reader probably already knows that, and it's okay for you to figure that that's common knowledge. If basically the test is, would a reasonably educated adult just already know this? If so, you don't need an attributive tag. If you are in doubt, of course, just run it by your teacher. Say, is this common knowledge or should I go ahead and cite it? And then if you don't have a teacher available, just cite it. Like when in doubt, throw that tag on there just so that you cover your bases. All right, congratulations. You now have a better understanding, I hope, of plagiarism. Thank you for spending your little bit of Friday with me here on Freestyle Friday on High School English on YouTube. I'll be back on Monday with mechanics, usage, and grammar practice. I hope you guys have a beautiful, beautiful weekend. See you soon. Bye.